Welcome. I'm Nick Gibson, and I'm joined by Dinah Turner, Product Director at Sharp Cloud, to talk about interconnectivity. Dinah, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks, Nick, for having me.
Recent reports show that less than 40% of companies currently use interconnected tools to measure, manage, and control data and processes that are key to their business. Why do you think this is, and what are these companies missing out on?
I think that probably the same as we all encounter is difficulty. So people will think, we have data, we have some processes, we have tools, we've already invested quite a lot of money in this. Why do we want to do more? What happens when we do that? What's the risk of us not doing it? We don't really understand it. I think those are probably the kind of discussions that lead people to hesitate, really, I guess, in terms of going for more connected tools for their data sets.
I mean, do you think it's a matter of sort of integration, if you like? I mean, a lot of people are using all kinds of different platforms, and there's so much more connectivity via different disparate devices and collaboration. And then you've got layers of sort of software and data management platforms in a company. It can often be difficult, to join them all up together. Is it a legacy integration problem?
Well, I think it's either legacy integration or actually it's complexity. It's just such a complex environment, and it is not getting any less complex. I heard a great word today when someone was talking to me. It was just like saying we're in a sort of multi-crisis at the moment. There's so many things going on that adding even more sort of thinking for ourselves about our complexity of our data, complexity of our organizations, complexity of our technology, and then trying to think about that thing that's going to make that easier is almost one step too far for a lot of people. But there are ways to select and think about that differently. But as with most things, simple isn't straightforward always. It takes a while to shift your complexity into a simple place.
We live in a data-driven world that relies upon connectivity between disparate platforms and devices, as we've just talked about. From your point of view, what are the main challenges in data management?
Well, we have data it's our new oil, it's our new money, it's our new value, and it's being created in vast volumes every single day in every system and every process that we work within. And that makes it so difficult to almost wrap our hands around. It exists in these different silos, in different pillars, in different technology stacks. It exists in different places. I mean, we're moving towards more recognition of that with our chief data officer roles increasing in organizations, and making sure that that role sits at the top table and understands why data matters. But I think that it's just that difficult. It is not easy, and we have to be brave and bold and confident going into this that we might not get it right first time. And I think people are perhaps quite risk averse, and we think, oh well, our data is so precious to us. What if we leak data? What's happening with security? Can we do this? And what's our risk pattern? So it's almost like there's a whole ring of pressure that sits around us, considering all of this data that we could maximize and we could learn from and we could act on. So ourselves, we've looked at a lot of the challenges faced by people and a lot of barriers that people look at when they're trying to think about ways of connecting their data. Everything is hidden away in that data, all the things you want to know, but it's having that dimensionality to it and being able to take it from one place, connect it to another tool, connect it to another system, and seeing around all of those things that you want to have a look at, come at them from different angles, challenge them, and just interrogate those different dimensions to find the thing that you actually really need to get to. So I think it's almost, it's such a massive ask for people that I think that in itself can seem like a data mountain to climb, let alone a data lake.
Data isn't there for its own sake. It's there for a purpose. And in most organizations, it's about business. A recent report on our website, they showed that CTOs struggle to align technology with business objectives because their organization often fails to understand its benefits, as we've previously talked about. So how can a business make better use of its technologies?
I think really it's been ever thus. I've worked in technology for 25 years, and understanding the benefits of technology for your business and aligning your business to technology, to innovation, and seeing the business case has always been a challenge. It's now a real empowerer for people, that looking at the sort of the intention has shifted so much now. It's rather than saying what can this business do with our technology, it's almost like what can the technology lift our business into doing, and it's a very different space. So we know that digital transformation projects are the top of mind for most organizations. That's going to bring with it data challenges, but so many of those digital transformation projects, I think only about I was looking at some data from CGI that was saying only 25% of those projects really realize the benefits that they consider they will at the beginning. So alignment is our key in this space. Aligning the technology stack, the data intent, the vision that you have for your organization, your strategy, deliverables, all of that is about, are we doing the right projects? Are we bringing in the right technology? Are we taking in the right data to make the right decisions? Before we even start thinking about what we deliver, we need to make the right decisions about what we do and what we don't.
Brilliant stuff. I mean, clearly you've got to start with the business objective and work back from that. What are we trying to achieve, and what do we need? And then it's a question of how do we achieve it. I was speaking with head of sustainability at the IOC about the Olympics, and they put together a complete 360 strategy and the data, and he started with what are we trying to do, how are we going to do it, and then you go back to the beginning and build it from there. One of the things about an increase in the amount of data that's being produced, and not least the so many more connections into it with cloud technology and all this kind of stuff, that with so much more of these connections, and the increasingly critical role that they play in business and society, there are data security issues. So the more connections you have, the more of a risk there is. How do you, what's your take on sort of data security in that sort of increasing environment?
I think it's kind of an expectation now that the security's there. You're always going to be having to go through your risk assessments, having to make sure you've done the standards and the data standards that you have. The connectors that, well, we use and others use have to meet those minimum standards, and the scrutiny that we all give to those things all the time, because data matters to everyone. It matters to you and I don't want my data leaving my bank. I'm sure you don't. I don't want my data leaving my country necessarily in some cases and going somewhere else. So all of that data integrity is really vital. Sometimes we think, don't we, about the data we have in our systems and the accuracy of it and the sort of quality of that data. But really, the main thing for all of us is tracking this and being aware how it's managed, how we deal with it, how we secure it, and how we know if anything goes wrong, how we can deal with that risk. I think there's the connection place is almost like an expected now. We want to know why we can't access data rather than trying to find out if it's secure and those kinds of elements. But I suppose we have these fantastic people who work in our organizations that deal with that data security, and those people they might annoy us, or they might tell us that there's lots of things that we've got to do around that data security, or stop things. In terms of business drivers, people can sometimes think about that risk assurance or security assurance being a difficult barrier to perhaps something that they want to deliver, but it's vital. It's vital for all of us that we consider that data security.
Regulation is a multifaceted, multi-edged sword. It's great for some people and not so good for other people. Why? Because you've got to comply with it, and compliance costs money. I mean, we're talking about all manner of interconnectivity across all kinds of disparate platforms and for all kinds of different reasons, and an increasing amount of data that comes down these connection pipes, etc. Is regulation doing its job? Do we need more of it? And if so, what kind of regulation, and where do we need it, do you think?
I think as we change our data habits as individuals and as organizations, every new technology will bring with it more data and more challenges. And I suppose it really matters for us to be on the front foot with that, and to be, rather than looking at retrofitting regulation to what we've already released into the world, I think it's actually better that we think about our regulatory bodies in this space being on the front foot, considering things like metaverse, considering new releases, new pieces of data that we're releasing about ourselves all the time, the effects of releasing the amount of data that we handed out in the world during the COVID period that's entered that world. Just trying to be on the front foot with that minimizes the risk. But I think that most organizations who work in the data space can confidently say we are aware of what's coming on the horizon, and think about how their integrity and their data matches into that. I think oftentimes the regulatory bodies, obviously there are going to be rogue organizations in this space and rogue behaviors, but I think sometimes our regulatory bodies will be looking to industry to guide them on what is working, what are the expectations, and what should we be doing.
So we've been talking about interconnectivity across a range of environments, but for business and industry and commerce, here's the question: do the benefits of greater interconnectivity outweigh the dangers involved in data security?
So I think dangers in data security are as long as we have risk management, as long as we understand that we have dangers, and we have mitigation, and we have management processes and regulation, those dangers are something that we can look at our controls for and our assessments for, that shouldn't remove the power of using connected data across your organization. We work with many organizations that connect vital pieces of information from across teams across the world on different technologies, and they're using those to roadmap incredibly helpful solutions for all of us for the future. They're looking at innovation road mapping, they're looking at sort of space, aerospace, clean energy. These are the things that we know we need, and being able to choose your best path through those innovative and cutting edge manufacturing type space, we actually do need to pull in all of those different pieces of data to be able to get to that knowledge. If we just sat in a room and said, well, I'm only going to refer to the information that's sat in front of me, we'd only ever get so far. So the power of unlocking that connectivity, it does far outweigh the danger. I think if we look backwards into the history books, we might see the conversations that we've had that might paint us into a corner around not wanting to move to mechanization, not wanting to move to robotics, not want to move to AI. And now we can see how many advantages we see in all of those different emerging technologies for us.
So the benefits do in fact far outweigh the risk and dangers. Dinah, I appreciate the time you've spent with me.
You're very welcome, Nick.
Well, we've had a busy day. I appreciate the clarity and the depth of your insight, and I very much appreciate you spending the time to share it with not just myself, but all of our wonderful viewers and readers of the magazine. Thank you for your time. I'd like to wish you and your organisation every success in your future endeavours.
Oh, thank you very much, Nick. Great to see you. Thanks for your time.